Okay, so I had a couple questions from some of your classmates about number 16 and 17 on the MathXL homework. So just going to go over those two problems again very quickly for anyone who is still having trouble answering them. Okay, so the first question was use the graph to determine A, the function's domain, B, the function's range, the x-intercepts, the y-intercept, and any missing function values indicated by the question marks. So that's these two right there. Okay, so let's start with the first one. A, the function's domain. Okay, so my domain, which I'm going to express in interval notation, is going to be the x values of the function. And we're going to go from left to right of this function. So looking at this graph is I notice a few things. I notice that this arrow and this arrow mean that this graph continues on beyond the edge of the actual blue part of the picture. Okay, so what that means is that it will keep going forever. And while it's going down, I also see that it is going left. And while this one is going down, it is also going right. Not as fast, but it is still going right. So that means that this one will keep going down, it will keep going left, and that means that this function, if I keep tracking left and left and left, this function starts at negative infinity, as far left as you can get, because this arrow means it goes forever. And then this function stops at positive infinity. Always with interval notation, we use parentheses when we are talking about infinity, parentheses when we have an open circle, and a bracket when we have something that is equal to as well as in the interval of the function. Okay, so B is the range. So now the range, instead of talking about left and right, now the range is how far up and down this function goes. Okay, so again, these two dots means it goes down forever. So this function, if I'm going to go from bottom to top, domain always goes from left to right. So we start here, we go this way, starts at negative infinity, finishes at positive infinity. Okay, range, we're going to go bottom to top. So this function started at negative infinity, but it doesn't keep going up forever because, looking at the picture, that is as high as it gets. Okay, now there is no open circle there, which means that the function, the graph of this curve actually passes through this point. This is a coordinate on the graph, and that is the highest point that it gets, which is a 1 and a bracket, because the function is actually equal to 1 at this point, which is the highest. And, you know, when we get to parabolas, we'll know that it's called the vertex. Okay, so C is the x-intercept. X-intercepts means the places where the graph crosses the x-axis. It crosses the x-axis at those 2 points. Those coordinates, this coordinate is negative 1, 0. The next coordinate is 1, 0. Okay. For D, the y-intercept, besides being the maximum, that's the place where the graph crosses the y-axis. So my y-intercept is 0, 1. And these are all points. These are intervals, right? Which is, the symbols can be sometimes the same, but it definitely means something different. And my two missing function values. So f of negative 2 is going to be equal to. Okay, so that means I look at this graph. Negative 2 is my x coordinate. It's right there. Okay. Well, this is not on the graph. So I want to find where at negative 2 is the graph. It's right there. What's the y coordinate? 1, 2, 3. So f of negative 2 is negative 3, because that is the point on the graph that has an x coordinate of negative 2. And because this is a function, because it passes the vertical line test, there's only one answer. Okay? F of positive 2, 1, 2, is also negative 3. Because this coordinate right here starts with an x value of positive 2 and a y value of negative 3. Okay? So that was the first one. Here is the next one. So same idea, 5 different parts, except now my graph is a little bit different. No arrows this time, so I'm definitely going to start somewhere and stop somewhere for both domain and range. So A, the domain, left to right. Where does the function start? Where does it stop? It starts there. That is the furthest left, the furthest left of the x-axis that the function goes, and it stops there. That's the furthest right it goes. This coordinate would be negative 3 to 0. We would put a parenthesis on the negative 3 because of the open circle, and a bracket at 0 because of the solid dot. Okay? So again, for domain, I'm figuring out what x values are included in this blue line. That's not included. There's no graph. Negative 4 is not included, but negative 3 is, right? That's where this function starts, but it's an open circle, which means it's everything up to negative 3, but not including negative 3. And then all of these x coordinates are in the graph until 0, 1, there's no graph, okay? For B is the range. Okay? The range of this function, now we're going to be talking about bottom to top, the y values. Again, that's the lowest the function gets. That's the highest the function gets. Doesn't matter that it goes left. All I'm care about is the y coordinate, up and down. So I'm going to start there, finish there. So this graph starts with a bracket because of the solid dot at negative 4, and it goes up to 5 with a parenthesis because of, again, the open circle. Open circles always parentheses. Let's get rid of these. Okay. So next, C and D. X-intercept. That's an x-intercept. That's where the graph crosses the x-axis. What is the coordinates of those points? It is negative 2, comma, 0. X-intercepts are always going to have a y-coordinate of 0. That's what makes them an x-intercept. This is the place where the graph crosses the y-axis, which is 0, comma, negative 4. And finally, E, f of negative 1 is go to negative 1 and figure out where this graph is defined at x is equal to negative 1, right there. So the coordinates of that point, and the first coordinate better be negative 1, or else you're not finding the function value at negative 1. The coordinates here are negative 1, comma, negative 4. Negative 1 is my x coordinate, negative 4 is my y coordinate, and therefore my output of this function. Okay, so those were the two questions from MathXL. I believe it was 16 and 17. So if anybody had any troubles with those, watch this quick video and be sure to finish up all the problems.